Welcome to the Golden Gate Area Council STEM Activity Series brought to you by the Golden Gate Area Council STEM Committee. My name is Caroline Siyuki, and today we are going to play the role of environmental engineers in charge of cleaning up an oil spill. Our activity today is called the Great Oil Spill Cleanup. Why is this so important? Well, in 2010, there was a very huge disaster where an oil rig caught fire and actually had a huge oil spill. This oil spill went on for miles and miles and miles. The worst part of this oil spill was what happened to the animals. There were a lot of birds and turtles and tortoises and all kinds of mammals that depend on the ocean that were greatly affected by the oil spill. So your job today is to pretend that you are an environmental engineer. We are going to set up an experiment for you to decide what is the best way to clean up an oil spill. Here are our materials. There are two parts to this lab. First, we have to prepare our oil spill. And here are the materials that we are going to need. We're going to need some cooking oil. It is best to not use peanut oil in case you have a cub who is allergic to peanuts. We're going to use cocoa powder to make that oil look really gross. And then we have a little bit of water, to which I have added a couple of drops of blue food coloring just so the water looks like the ocean. We are going to make our little oil slick in a clear plastic cup. Notice how I've set this cup on a piece of wax paper because it always just keeps everything cleaner. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some oil to this cup. For each cub, you will need one clear plastic cup and approximately a 1/4 inch of oil in your cup. In order to make that oil look really nasty, you simply need to add a very small amount of cocoa powder. So here's a little cocoa powder. We're going to toss it in the oil. And when you mix it, it makes it look a lot like very dirty oil. I like to use cocoa powder because it gives you that effect and it's completely non-toxic. Now I'm going to add a little bit of my ocean. I add about a 1/2 inch of blue water. And as you will see, there is water and your oil slick is right on top of it. Because you are an environmental engineer, you have to evaluate a number of different substances that might be good at picking up the oil. Here is just a simple example of what I had around the house. You can do anything you want in terms of looking for material. You can use fabrics. You can even use human hair if you have access to it from the local beauty hair cutters. But here's what I have. I have a little bit of a paper towel. I have some feathers. Feathers are important. I'm going to ask that every cub master have feathers in their sampling. We have some cotton balls. We actually have a little bit of moss. I have some wool yarn. I even have some hay. So remember, you are not limited to these. You can actually use anything that you want to evaluate as a really good picker-upper for this oil. So to get started, you can pick any one of your samples And you slowly put it into the oil, swishing and making sure that you avoid the water part of it. See how much oil you can pick up, and you place it back on the paper plate. So the paper plate is actually a very good way of keeping the mess kind of contained, okay? And you can do that with just about all of your other samples. You can pick up oil and you can lay it down. It's really that simple. And at the very end, everybody gets to discuss what they think was the best material for picking up the oil from the oil spill. Another suggestion is if you want to, you can use tweezers. Because if you don't want to get your hands in the oil, that's another way of doing this experiment. You will continue testing every single one of your samples until you have finished and gone around all of the different samples on your plate. Well, now that everyone's had a turn and tested a bunch of different substances, I want you to pay attention specifically to the wool and the feathers. Imagine the animals that have wool and feathers and how much the oil spills affected them. Their covering absorbs a lot of oil, and that is very important because as an environmental engineer, you want to avoid harming animals during these oil spills.